Hello, Mr. Dunphy. This is Alex Hong doing the audiocast for the final project. Okay, so the Jacksonian era. I'm gonna talk about what happened during the Jacksonian era. So let's go to the next slide. Um, Removal of the Indians. The major topic during the Jacksonian era could be the removal of the Indians because Indians they were in the way, kinda in the way of white people's um like civilizing as in economic problem, because white people were settling eastern part of the America, but after the land was full and more people were coming in, poor Indians had to move like further west due to the Indian Removal Act of 1830. As whites' pressure was getting bigger and bigger, Indians had to follow the act, and they had slowly left the eastern United States. And in Cherokee Nation versus Georgia, 1831, and Rossiter versus Georgia, 1832, the court ruled that Georgia had violated the U.S. Constitution in extending its jurisdiction over the Cherokees. Jackson ignored court rulings and pushed Indians' removal to its tragic conclusion. So, court decided that court said that Georgia violated the U.S. Constitution against the Cherokees. The Cherokees were getting forced to move, and Jackson, who was the president, ignored the court rulings and decided to put more pressure on the Indian Removal Act of 1830, and yeah, the Indians had to move forcefully. Alright, so next slide. So this is the map of the Indian removals. This was directly from the textbook. So from Georgia, Alabama, and Florida, from east to middle east, they had to move. The arrows show the movements of Indians moving to the middle, and the red arrows are the Indians, and purple ones Indians moving in the Trail of Tears, which was like a railroad that Indians had to move to the west. The fixed policy of the Jackson administration and pressure from the states forced Native Americans in the 1830s to migrate from their eastern homelands to a special Indian reserve west of the Mississippi River. So they were pressured by Jackson, our president, during this era, and the poor Indians had to move forcefully. Yeah. Next slide. This is a picture of Indians moving to the western part of Mississippi River. For the Cherokees, the Trail of Tears stretched 1,200 miles from the homeland in the east to what became the Indian Territory in Oklahoma. So this was like a trail, like a made road for Indians to move to the west part of the Mississippi River. And yeah, Oklahoma was now Indian Territory. Alright, to the next slide. The nullification crisis. Jackson's stand on Indian removal confirmed the impression of many of his followers. So Jackson's idea on the Removal Act, it caused many of his followers to have a big impression on him. States' rights forces, nullifiers, known as nullifiers, challenged Jackson over tariff policy, which was tax. They precipitated nullification crisis. The tariff rate jumped to 50% in 1828. So the nullifiers were trying to ask Jackson for nullifying the tariff rate because the rate jumped to 50%. And since the tariff rate was so high, states' rights forces were getting angrier, and people were getting angrier at the government. So South Carolina Convention in November 1832 nullified the tariffs of 1828 and 1832. So this was a big deal because it finally nullified the tariffs, the high percentage of tariffs, and it began to cause some influence over Jackson's presidency era. So in January 1833, Jackson put down the nullification by supporting a new tariff that would cut duties by half within 2 years. Jackson, like it says over here, put down the nullification. When South Carolina Convention of November 1832 nullified the tariffs of 1828 and 1832, that became like a useless convention because Jackson, by supporting a new tariff, put this down. And Jackson has won the battle against the states' rights forces, and nullifiers divided. Jackson had won the victory over the tariff policy, and his presidency was like, he was like a, you could say that Jackson was like a puppet of people because people wanted Indian removal because of the immigrants and people coming to the United States for better work and farmlands, and Jackson did what people wanted, and Jackson was doing what, he was like a Democrat. Oops. Yeah, and that's it.